Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Iran's increasing threats to Israel. As the Wall Street Journal reports, Arab diplomats are saying Iran is planning a strong and complex response to Israel for last weekend's attack, including more powerful weapons and warheads it hasn't used before, as both Israel and the U.S. prepare for Iran's strike. And Israel's leadership making it clear it will keep up the fight against Hezbollah to make the northern border secure and bring Israelis home. Here at home, final polls showing an extremely tight race as it goes down to the wire. Both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris campaigning in the swing states, with the White House on the finishing line and in focus. And with illegal immigration being the top issue, we're going to take a look at the border with Mexico to see what's actually happening to keep America secure. All those stories and more are ahead right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Multiple stories to get to on the election this busy Monday. We'll get to those in just a few moments. We're going to begin this half hour, though, in the Middle East, where Iran is stepping up its threats against Israel, including the possibility of building nuclear weapons and a major strike on the Jewish state. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the U.S. and Israel are actively preparing for this potential Iranian counterattack.
Saturday, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei ramped up his threats against Israel and the United States.
The enemies, be it the Zionist regime or the United States of America, will definitely receive a crushing response in return for what they are doing against the Iranian nation and the resistance front.
An Iranian official also warned Iran may reconsider its nuclear doctrine if it faces an existential threat. He claims Iran has the ability to produce nuclear weapons, but is restrained by an Islamic ruling by the supreme leader. The Iranian threats follow Israel's attack in October that damaged Iran's ballistic missile production and destroyed much of its air defenses. That attack in response to Iran launching more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. The U.S. and Israel are making preparations. The U.S. CENTCOM commander meeting with Israeli military officials and visiting a U.S. defense battery sent here to bolster Israel's air defenses. The Pentagon also announcing it sent B-52s to the region. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told IDF troops Israel is fighting Iran on multiple fronts, from Gaza to Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. And on the border with Lebanon, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu laid out the goals for its war with Hezbollah.
With or without an agreement, the key to restoring the calm and security in the north, the key to returning our residents in the north safely to their homes is, first of all, to push Hezbollah beyond the Litani. Second is to strike at any attempt to rearm itself. Third is to respond vigorously to any action against us. Simply put, enforcement, 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 and cutting off Hezbollah's pipeline from Iran through Syria.
In Gaza, Israel's latest intelligence assessments suggest 51 of the 101 hostages held in Gaza are still alive. Intelligence also suggests Hamas has murdered at least 27 hostages in captivity. Meanwhile, Israel's foreign mission notified the UN that it's pulling out of the 1967 agreement recognizing the Palestinian aid agency, UNRWA. Last week, the Knesset voted to ban the agency in Israeli-controlled territory over some of its workers' ties to Hamas.
CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now. Continue our coverage from Jerusalem. Chris, Iran is reportedly saying its powerful response against Israel with more powerful warheads and other weapons will not come until after the election. What more do we know about its plans?
Well, Ephraim, right now they're saying they're going to be more complex and they're going to use weapons that they haven't used before. It remains to be seen what more can they do, what kind of weapons they will have that they haven't used before. They have tried twice, April 13th, when they fired 350 projectiles. April 1st, as we said in our report, there was 181 ballistic missiles. Both of them caused minimal damage. They also said they might be using Iraqi groups to fire some of these ballistic missiles, drones, or UAVs. Some have said in the past, and yours truly, that is this the wolf and the three pigs? I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. How much of this is rhetoric and how much is actually something that Iran can do? We do know that after the Israeli strike, Iran basically, in some sense, is naked to future Israeli attacks because of their air defenses being diminished significantly. And so it remains to be seen how much Iran would want to threaten Israel or attack Israel, and then what kind of retaliation Israel would be able to strike at Iran and possibly both their nuclear sites as well as their oil facilities.
The U.S. has sent B-52 bombers to the region. Could the U.S. get involved in the warfare between Israel and Iran?
Well, Ephraim, I think they would get involved, but like they have in the past on a defensive measure to be able to help strike down any of these ballistic missiles or projectiles from Iran. So I think they'll be in a defensive posture. They have deployed what's called the THAAD. That's the U.S. anti-missile defense system. And as we saw, the CENTCOM commander has visited here. So that all adds to the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow anti-missile system that Israel already has. So I think on a defensive side, they'll be there, not necessarily on the offensive, but it does send a signal to Iran that the U.S. will help Israel protect itself. One other thing, Ephraim, you know, you're going to have a lot of U.S. election coverage. Whatever happens in the U.S. election tomorrow is going to really change the dynamics in the Middle East one way or the other.
Now, Iran is saying it is capable of building a nuclear weapon. Does that increase the incentive for Israel to attack Iran's nuclear facilities?
I really think it does, as if Israel needed any more motivation to go ahead and destroy Iran's nuclear program. Just the other day, Netanyahu was speaking to an IDF graduation, and he said that the chief goal, the chief concern of Israel is to destroy Iran's nuclear program. It's been the goal of Israel for decades. It's been the personal goal of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This represents an existential threat to Israel. And could this be the opportunity for Israel to go ahead and do it? And it also harkens back to what's called the Begin Doctrine, Ephraim. That was the late Menachem Begin, Prime Minister of Israel, where he said that they will not allow any of its neighbors to get weapons of mass destruction, and Iran's nuclear program certainly qualifies.
Let's turn now to Israel's fighting with Hezbollah. Does Israel have any idea how long it will take to accomplish its goals against the terrorist group?
Well, I think it does, and it's hinting about that. It has in the last couple of weeks, saying the goals against Hezbollah are going to be probably sooner than many people think. They're not sure of the exact timetable, and they're not saying exactly when, but they are making significant advances into southern Lebanon. And there's a sense in Israel that Israel needs to finish the job and really defeat Hezbollah, so it's no longer a threat to Israel and or Lebanon. They've been destroying their finances, their banking system, the military infrastructure. You saw some of the explosions there in our report. Just massive infrastructure that they're destroying in southern Lebanon. Also diminishing their political influence inside Lebanon, and that will allow others inside Lebanon to rise up and perhaps be a tipping point for the Lebanese people to take back their country after Iran and Hezbollah has taken it over.
What is the latest in Israel's actions against the United Nations Relief and Works Agency?
Well, we know that Israel's foreign minister, Yisrael Katz, sent a letter to the UN Secretary General. He's abrogating the 1967 agreement between Israel and UNRWA. It just adds to what the Knesset did by banning UNRWA in Israeli-controlled territory. That'll happen 90 days after the vote, which was last week. They will work with other NGOs, organizations, but not with UNRWA. UNRWA really has lost all credibility here in Israel. There's been indoctrination in UNRWA schools that's been going on for decades. They've exposed their curriculum. It really teaches, indoctrinates a whole generation against of his Palestinians against Israelis. So this is just one more step of divorcing Israel and UNRWA.
Chris, thank you so much. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, we appreciate you joining us. Remember, we appreciate your insights, and we continue to pray for you and our entire team there. Thank you. Coming up, just one day of campaigning left in the presidential race. Both presidential candidates on the campaign trail in the key battleground states. We're going to hear what both are saying in their final pitches to voters. We've got that story for you. When we come back, you are watching CBN NewsWatch. Nearly 80 million Americans have already cast their ballots ahead of Election Day tomorrow, and the presidential candidates are looking to win over voters in the battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris spent Sunday shoring up the blue wall of Michigan, while former President Donald Trump hit 3 swing states in the East. CBN's Dale Hurd has more on this story.
With Election Day in less than 24 hours, both candidates made their final pitches to voters over the weekend. Vice President Harris rallied in Michigan Sunday, visiting a black church.
I see a nation determined to turn the page on hatred and division and chart a new way forward.
In a visit with Arab American leaders, she said she'll support the creation of a Palestinian state in the Middle East.
We need to end the war, and we need to get the hostages out. And as President of the United States, I will do everything in my power to achieve that end and a 2-state solution.
Former President Trump visited the battleground states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia Sunday, pledging to tackle the economy and inflation.
It's going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be nasty a little bit at times, and maybe at the beginning in particular.
And Trump warned about a Harris administration.
If she wins, you will live the rest of your life as second-class citizens in your own country.
Polling shows a race too close to call. New York Times Siena College polling shows the candidates tied or Harris leading in every swing state except Arizona. NBC gave Trump 2 minutes of free campaign ads Sunday during NASCAR and NFL coverage after a 90-second appearance by Harris on Saturday Night Live prompted a federal communications commissioner to say it broke the FCC's equal time rule. More than 78 million Americans have already cast their ballots. Trump continues to raise the issue of fairness.
The ones that should be locked up are the ones that cheat on these horrible elections.
Harris says Trump is trying to make people think their vote doesn't matter.
It is meant to distract from the fact that we have and support free and fair elections in our country. We did in 2020. He lost.
State and federal officials insist elections have only gotten more secure. And the FBI has issued a warning about 2 more false videos circulating online related to election security. One purporting to show Haitian migrants on their way to vote, and one showing a man destroying ballots in battleground Pennsylvania. The FBI reports they're Russian fakes. And with fears of post-election violence, large security fences have begun going up in Washington, D.C. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Still ahead, illegal immigration is a leading issue in this year's election, and migrants are no longer just crossing the border in record numbers, they're also flying across it. We're going to hear why experts say it isn't the cartels behind this new invasion, it's the government. We're going to have that story for you and more when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Immigration is a top issue among voters, especially in border states like Texas. Recent changes in administration policies have resulted in fewer illegal crossings. Critics argue, though, some of those changes could have been encouraging more arrivals. CBN's Tara Mergener brings us the story from McAllen, Texas.
As the sun sets over the Rio Grande, the Texas-Mexico border appears peaceful. Once the major hotspot for illegal crossings, the situation has changed due to Texas spending billions toward aggressive border enforcement, from barbed wire and floating buoys to the National Guard.
If you cross in Texas, you will be prosecuted.
While illegal immigration is down overall in Texas, the numbers show many migrants are rerouting to other states, often with smugglers, due to Governor Greg Abbott's enhanced border security.
Border officials say that means more crossings in neighboring states like Arizona, New Mexico, and California.
Most of it is cartel. If you pay the cartel to get across, they're taking you up north because it's easier for them.
Biden administration executive orders aimed at streamlining asylum requests have also reduced the number of dangerous crossings and expedited deportations.
I'm announcing actions to bar migrants who cross our southern border unlawfully. Migrants will be restricted from receiving asylum at our southern border unless they seek it after entering through an established lawful process.
In August, 58,000 migrants entered the U.S., down from a record 250,000 in December. That's a 68% drop compared to a year ago.
While the Biden administration touts a recent drop in illegal border crossings, critics argue they don't tell the whole story. They claim new legal pathways for migrants don't reduce overall migration, but instead encourage more arrivals and further complicate border security.
The traffic and people coming into the pipeline has not abated under the executive order. The Biden administration, for quite some time now, has been using the parole system to let people make an appointment on CBP One app and fly into the country, so effectively flying over the border.
The CBP One system helps process about 50,000 asylum seekers monthly, with more than 800,000 migrants paroled into the U.S. since its launch last year. Millions remain waiting for appointments.
This traveler feature is now live on CBP One.
Humanitarian parole programs also allow legal entry for tens of thousands each month from designated crisis countries, unlike regular parole, which is case-specific.
It's like the U.S. government is completing the smuggling process. They're gaming the system and they're skewing the numbers so it looks like immigration's down when it's actually not down at all.
We see what happens in New York. We saw what happened in Springfield, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado. That impact is being felt regardless of what the level of traffic at the border is.
We reached out to the White House about these concerns and are still awaiting a response. Meanwhile, agents also point out the flow of dangerous drugs into the U.S. has not stopped. So far this year, border authorities report seizing at least 10,000 pounds of fentanyl.
They still bring dope up through the river. The drug crossings obviously have not slowed down, and we hear it every day, and we see it every day, and the talk about fentanyl, and it's very real.
And they say so is the potential terror threat to the United States, as individuals from more than 160 countries still show up to cross.
You just need one person. Or in the event of 9/11, what was it, 9 people? You don't need many to cause us a lot of problems here in this country.
Problems those on the front lines insist will continue no matter which method migrants choose to get here. In McAllen, Texas, Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Continuing our election coverage, many voters will be voting on the issue of abortion in tomorrow's elections. Voters in 10 states will decide on ballot initiatives seeking to enshrine abortion rights in their constitutions. In Missouri, pro-life advocates say the proposed amendment is the most extreme pro-abortion measure in the nation. CBN's Paul Petit reports now from Joplin, Missouri.
I am voting no on Amendment 3.
Linda McKnight of Webb City, Missouri, has her mind made up on the initiative, which, if passed, would lift the abortion ban here.
I was really surprised. I guess I should not have been, but I was very surprised and very disappointed that we're going down that road again.
Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, almost 24 states have banned or restricted abortion. Now, Missouri joins 9 other states where voters will decide whether to make a change.
It's important for us to realize here in the state of Missouri, Amendment 3 is the most extreme abortion law that would be on the books in the entire nation. More extreme than California, more extreme than New York or Illinois.
Extreme in that it goes far beyond abortion access.
And it also brings sex change operations for minors without their parents' knowledge or consent, because it removes all malpractice protections. It removes all zoning, all licensing, all taxation. It also removes mandatory reporting.
Imagine with sex trafficking at the levels that they are, now you give this unfettered capability of abortion without parental consent, because that's also in this to where a little girl that may be pregnant does not have to get consent from a parent Well, sex traffickers and rapists would absolutely love to have something like that in the state.
To know those details, however, means reading the fine print. Pro-life advocates have been going door to door to fully explain Amendment 3 to voters.
People honestly don't realize everything that's in it, and they appreciate the information.
People see a crafty slogan and they just think they're going to help somebody out that, was raped. And that's what they see and that's what they latch onto when, no. This is above and beyond what, just some sort of exception.
Similar to abortion measures in other states, a yes vote here in Missouri would enshrine abortion in the state constitution and allow the procedure to be done up to birth.
Constitutional amendments can't be modified or changed or debated. And I think it's important for us to realize that at least here in Missouri with Amendment 3, it removes all protections for all reproductive health.
Pro-life advocates and legislators predict a groundswell in abortion rates if voters overturn bans in the 10 states with initiatives on the ballot.
This is it. I mean, if we can't protect life, I mean, that's the fundamental right that's enshrined in the Declaration. That's given by God himself. So if we can't get this right, what can we get right?
In Missouri, Paul Petit, CBN News.
And we'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us. And before we say goodbye, I'd like to leave you with a word of motivation for your Monday. Make this your desire today and perhaps your prayer as well. I'm grateful to be loved by God. I live to be used by God. But most importantly, I want to be trusted by God. With that word, I pray this is a marvelous Monday and the start of a wonderful week. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online. That address is cbnnews.com. Please take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.